This conference will now be recorded.
Welcome to DR TSPR show. This is Dr. Tangella Shiva Prasad Reddy alias Dr. TSPR. Namaste, Adab, hello, and a very grand show again on Hyderabad Democracy Forum. Guru Garu, Professor Purushotham Reddy Garu, Gurutuluru Subba Garki.
Namaste.
Namaskaram. Today's topic is very close to my Guru and Gurutuluru, and I'm very happy. I feel even viewers will be very happy, and environmentalists, the climate activists, the concerned citizens. I tell you, once this show, if you watch it in totality, you will be the ones who will be very happy because National Green Tribunal, whatever orders it tries to, those orders also have to be implemented like any other court, like civil court or others. So the National Green Tribunal does have that legal sanctity or immunity to see that its orders are also implemented. This is going to be a big issue for all because we say environment or climate, whatever you say, they are very fundamental for our survival or for our existence. Right from groundwater to air, and in between, the food and the housing, everything happens if this type of environment or climate survives. So the serious existential crisis which is happening across, with this NGT having an authority to oversee its own orders to see that they are implemented, will be a big shock for all those babus, administrative babus, and the political parties at the helm. So, welcome to the special show, na? Hyderabad Democracy Forum. I'm very happy to host this. It's a privilege for me to host both of you once again. Yes, Anna.
Anna, it's your. మీరు మొదలు పెట్టాలన్న
Anna, Anna
Okay.
Modul.
So I will take about 15-20 minutes time. Because for the benefit of the viewers, um, here we need to go into the pages of history a little bit because we need to understand how come NGT came into being, what was the context, and how it all started. So, friends, all the youngsters and the viewers are requested to note the first conference, United Nations first conference on environment took place in Stockholm, 1972. And Indira Gandhi was the only head of the government to attend. Of all the nearly 200 countries, Madam Indira Gandhi was the only person to have attended. She had the privilege of attending and she gave the keynote address. She was there for all the 6 days, and after her return, Madam Gandhi immediately appointed a commission. We call it as a parliamentary committee, a joint parliamentary committee to draft the Prevention of Water Pollution Bill. And joint parliamentary committee means there will be members from Lok Sabha and Rajya Sabha. And Mr. Mohan Daria was the chairperson. Now, for the benefit of all the youngsters now, I have to inform that even when Madam Gandhi was the Prime Minister, and everybody knows that she had an absolute two-third majority in the Lok Sabha and the Rajya Sabha and a very powerful political entity, but still there were some people, some members of parliament who were very true to the subject, true to their promises made to the people, true to the constitution. And these people were known as the Young Turks. A Young Turk is supposed to be fearless. And this word came into being to describe Mustafa Kemal Atatürk, who can be described as the maker of modern India, modern Turkey. So, drawing inspiration from Mustafa Kemal Atatürk, the word Young Turk was applied to Mohan Darya, Krishna Kant, then another person, Ram Dhan, and there's a fourth person, I don't remember the name, but the question is that these young Turks were very creative, innovative, fearless, and they were committed to truth. So, such a personality was that was Mohan Darya, and he was the chairperson. So, from 1972 to early 1976, say about, uh, if you look at the number of months, it comes to about 17, 18 months. And they did a lot of homework. And finally, they drafted an excellent bill which was enacted in 1974. This is known as the Water Act of 74. Now, based on the provisions of the Water Act, pollution control boards came to be organized in this country in the year 1976. And 5 years later, once again taking note of the requirements of the country, the Prevention of Air Pollution Act was enacted. And subsequently, 3 years later, that is 1984, India witnessed the world's most horrendous disaster, and that happened in Bhopal. It is known as the Bhopal gas disaster. It is not a tragedy; it is a disaster. In fact, how do we describe the three words? Understand? The first word is tragedy. A tragedy means any road accident. We can, if somebody is killed on the road accidentally, where one or two people are affected, you call it as a tragedy. But what happened in Bhopal is described as a disaster because more than 4,000 people died just like that within a span of 2 hours on the night of December 3rd, right? On the night of 2nd December, 3rd morning. Subsequently, about 200,000 people also were reported sick, and many of them suffered for a long time to come. So, the Bhopal gas disaster has been described in the very many books written by very eminent personalities as the world's worst industrial disaster. Having said this, the government of India, as a response to this horrendous disaster, they came up with a Comprehensive Environment Protection Act in 1986. To that extent, fine. It is a very comprehensive act where we have the concept of EIA, environmental management, risk management, almost everything is there, including environmental public hearing. But when this particular act was enacted, the corporate lobby once again became very active, and they started pressurizing, or what we call lobbying with the government, and they prevented then existing government, that is Rajiv Gandhi, he was prevented. In other words, he succumbed to their pressure, and Environment Protection Authority was not created. Meanwhile, Supreme Court of India became active after Bhopal because I can always say that Bhopal was the triggering point, and the judiciary also became active, and we had a galaxy of excellent judges, right from Justice Krishna Iyer earlier, and then Justice Kuldeep Singh, Justice Bhagwati, and continuously to aid and assist to bring such cases to the court. We had this Enviro Legal Center for Enviro Legal Issues, that is our MC Mehta. MC Mehta is a legendary figure. Everybody knows, every student of law knows because he is their part of the, he is there at the, in their curriculum. Now what happened when the Supreme Court started going to the rescue of the people affected, marginalized by pollution, they started using a word people affected by pollution, PAP. So pollution affected people, their problems, they started highlighting. We had, and thanks to Krishna Iyer, who developed the very concept of public interest litigation. And here I want to tell our young friends, particularly those who would be writing civil services exams, this is part of their subject and they need to know that Indian judiciary reinvented itself, and that is one of the greatest positive signs, but it is not happening on a day-to-day basis. It happened because there were excellent judges in the Supreme Court at that particular time, a galaxy of top judges, and subsequently also, like Jeevan Reddy, but of course the number one place is Krishna Iyer, then Kuldeep Singh, Bhagwati, Jeevan Reddy, and people like that. Now the question is, they started going out to help the poorest of the poor and people affected by pollution. But it was realized that it would be extremely difficult for the suffering people to go to the Supreme Court because they are already poor and they are in deep problem. The air they breathe is poison, the water they drink is poison, and they are already, their livelihoods are affected, their cattle are dying, their sheep are dying, their lands have been poisoned, and they have become incapable of producing anything. In such a situation, it was noted that these people, the suffering people, would not be able to go to Delhi and file a case in the Supreme Court. It's not practical. So the Supreme Court, with a very positive intention of reaching out to help, to give them a helping hand, it recognized that even if the suffering people send one postcard to the Supreme Court, addressed to the Supreme Court of India about their problem, that postcard would be admitted and it would be treated as public interest litigation. That was the wonderful glory of the Supreme Court of India. Reddy, a very quick response mechanism, and it commanded the grateful respect of the people to a great extent. So, and the chapter on PILs, I request all the students to take note. It is an invention of the Supreme Court of India, highly appreciated by other Supreme Courts in the and in other countries. After that, Supreme Court came up with another proposal, and that proposal was that they shall have a separate bench to deal with environmental matters, and to begin with, once a week, that is, come Friday, in one particular bench, that particular bench would be dealing only environmental problems. Everything was okay, things were going on, but then there were certain practical difficulties. And the difficulties were that, in spite of all good intentions, the Supreme Court judges, by virtue of their education and experience, it was found that they were lagging in their understanding of environmental issues. And it was at this stage, which very much discussed and a lot of introspection on the part of the Supreme Court. So it is their brainchild that a separate apex body to provide justice to the suffering people be created, and after lot of thought, it was conveyed to the government, and government of India also agreed, and NGT came into being. NGT means National Green Tribunal, and the chairperson will be mostly a former Supreme Court judge or a sitting Supreme Court judge dedicated for that particular purpose. That is, the chairperson of the NGT is equal to a Supreme Court judge on par, and this was serving the interest. One advantage here was that all NGT realized that once again only having one court in Delhi will not be sufficient, and therefore they created three other courts. One in Maharashtra, the second one Chennai, and I think the third one is in uh, Bengal. Maybe the number is likely to increase because even these 1+3 courts, the regional courts, they are not adequate, because today we see a situation that the corporates at the global level, after 1991, after the collapse of Soviet Russia, they got emboldened and they came up with a new prescription, and they conveyed to the governments in the entire world that the way forward would be LPG, liberalization, privatization, and globalization. And they created a pathway for themselves. And political leaders of almost all the countries who normally function as the running dogs of the corporates, these people were only too willing to lay a red carpet for the corporates. As a result, we see that after 1992, in spite of the fact that the world was holding the second biggest conference, that is the first one being Stockholm, and exactly 20 years later, 1992 Rio conference, and Rio conference was going on. It was the world's biggest conference, but second in the order of environment. And the whole world was coming to converging, as my friend Subba Garu always says, convergence for sustainability. Even as the world was coming together to save the planet Earth, we find the corporates were equally trying to, uh, you know, make the best of the situation for their own advantage. And that is why we always notice that the corporates clandestinely try to subvert. They lay all kinds of roadblocks and speed breakers, and many of the politicians in most of the countries are in their payrolls, and it is the corporates who decide the policies. And as a result, we see slowly the public sector, in not only in India but in several other countries, slowly getting into the slipping into the hands of the corporates. And that is why liberalization, privatization, globalization, this only suits the corporates, not the people. And now the latest trend is the last 10 years, we see that the common property resources of the people are slowly shifting from the people's control or public control to the corporate controls. In Hyderabad, we see this happening as the HMDA and GHMC, they vie with each other in handing over the lakes to the corporates. And this is a matter of shame, because the job of the government is to protect the resources of the people. They can't be transferring such the wealth of the people to the corporates, to the vested interests. And okay, this is happening. Today, friends, in NGT, we have non-judicial members also. And mostly they are supposed to be experts on the subject of environment. So in the main benches of the NGT, you have experts from the subject of environment, and this is only to enable the judges to understand the issues and it is something like an in-house expert to guide them, and this is happening. NGT has been developed as a quick response mechanism, so that it becomes focused and people get quick relief. My own experience is, for example, whether it is in the case of Patancheru or the Hyderabad garbage issue or the Musi River issue, where my students filed lot of cases and we got excellent orders from NGT. In fact, when Justice Swatantra Kumar was there as the chairperson, on our invitation, he visited Hyderabad and he gave a public lecture in the Open University auditorium, a jam-packed auditorium and people, advocates, and a lot of environmental activists, they were able to listen to him directly. Now, this we have to speed up. In fact, on that day, I made a request that there should be a special bench of a separate bench of NGT in Hyderabad, because here the ruling party is polluting left and right, and all in the name of so-called development. For example, the Pharma City, and they are encroaching the water bodies, they are destroying the forests, and in fact, they went to the extent of facilitating mining for uranium sales in the Nallamala, which we were able to stop with the help of public agitation. So the ultimate thing is that NGT has been giving orders left and right, but these orders were not being implemented by the chief secretaries of the respective governments. And this in the Hyderabad Democracy Forum, myself, Shiv Prasad Reddy, and my friend Subba, we discussed many times, and we expressed our anguish and our helplessness on that particular issue. But now, thanks to the Supreme Court, believe me, this is a shot in the arm and a great boost, as Shiv Prasad Reddy rightly pointed out. If understood properly, it's a big boost. Now, today, a determined NGT, suppose one or the judges who sit there in different benches of NGT in India, in Delhi, Chennai, and elsewhere, if they are very, very serious and committed, and what they should be doing is that they should in every such that is a court, they must have a register, and everything should be time bound. Suppose today about 5 cases are decided, it should be entered in the register on today's date, and then there should be a time, say 15 days, for the chief secretary to take action. If not, then why not? And another 10 days, you give a grace period and call them and put them behind the bar for not implementing. That is, today, what is beautiful about the Supreme Court order is, now the job of ensuring the compliance of NGT orders is now established, that it is the NGT which has to take care. Now, friends, I was always mentioning this, that every court has this power. Here, I am very clear that the Supreme Court did not give any new powers to NGT. This power was already existing with NGT, but not exercised. Why? Because they have not understood the rule position properly, or probably there were other reasons that I don't know. But now, that is why I always mention about the doctrine of implied powers. Yes, people go when they have a problem, they go to the NGT. NGT, after listening to both the sides, when it gives an order, it should automatically be complied with. That is the NGT now must create a mechanism which will ensure the progress of their judgments, whether the judgments are being translated into justice. It has to be done. Now, my one more point, and this is the last point. Supreme Court has said it in so many ways, and recently, about one month ago, Supreme Court said that every high court in this country is a constitutional court. Every high court in this country is a constitutional court. And please remember, friends, that there was no amendment to the constitution. There was no recent amendment to that effect. It was already there. Only thing is, our high courts were not exercising or rising to the occasion to be to the level of being a constitutional bench, and as a result, the Supreme Court order or observation. In the light of that, I expect the high courts in this country to rise and operate as constitutional benches and decide issues very fast, because how long should the people wait? No other Supreme Court in the entire world has so much of pendency. Don't ever, please don't, I mean, we should not think that all this is happening because they are powerless. They have all the power in the world. India's Supreme Court is supreme. Yeah, there is no doubt about it. As a constitutional expert, as a teacher teaching this particular subject for more than 50 years, I can say that our Supreme Court is second to none. It is, it enjoys the power of judicial review. And in fact, I want to make it very simple for the people. The Constitution is what the Supreme Court interprets. The original Constitution plus the amendments plus the interpretation of the judiciary, all these, everything should be taken into consideration while understanding. So, the people also, the people of India, it is we the people, the citizens of India. We have to be vigilant. We need eternal vigilance is the price we need to pay. I often tell. And also, in a democracy, there is no role for a spectator. So let we, the people, nearly 1.4 billion, the world's largest congregation of human beings in any given country, with the highest young population, the highest young population in the entire world. The governments and the judiciary should recognize the rising aspirations of the teeming millions, and they have to deliver and meet the requirements. But the people also, on their part, that means they need to understand the Constitution, read the fundamental duties, understand the working of democracy, and play their part. Only then this country will be able to realize its national goals, international goals, because the biggest job before the people and the government in this country is that we need to reduce the inequity within the country and play our role to help between the nations and between generations. We, the people in this country, have to realize that we are not the last generation to live on this planet or in this country, and we have a role to perform, and therefore we need to conduct ourselves with a sense of dignity. Thank you, Anna.
Yes, Anna. Subba, wonderful, Anna. Nations and generations, wonderfully said. Everyone has a role to play, not just the country. Yes,
This
Subba.
is the subject. The subject itself is like that. Actually, almost every day we need to remember we have to reduce the equity gap within the country. Simultaneously, we need to help our neighbors, because to have a poor neighbor is always a headache.
Yes.
For a country, I'm talking. If Pakistan economy is collapsing, no Indian will be happy. We'll be happy if they are also prosperous. So everyone should be happy. But at the same time, we have to be conscious of the fact that the coming generations also, because we are not the last generation to live on this planet or in this country, and we have to be careful to see, to enable that the generations to come will have the opportunity to organize activity to meet their needs. That is the essence of sustainable development.
Wonderful. Subarna, సో అన్న ఈజ్ వెరీ క్లియర్. మీరు అది అన్మ్యూట్ చేసుకోండి సార్. మీరు 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 భాషలో చెప్పినట్టు ఢిల్లీలోనే కాదు ఎత్తేయడం, చెన్నైలో ఎత్తేయచ్చు, బెంగాల్ ఎత్తేయచ్చు, ఇంకా కొత్తగా ఎక్కడ వచ్చినా అక్కడ నుంచి తీసి ఎత్తే అవతల పడేయచ్చు. సో ఎన్జిటి హ్యాస్ గాట్ ఇట్స్ ఇన్హరెంట్ పవర్స్ లైక్ హై కోర్ట్స్ నౌ విచ్ ఆర్ ది కాన్స్టిట్యూషన్ benches now. The constitutional judgments can be given by high courts. So in the same order, the Supreme Court's latest observation or order on National Green Tribunal, I think it is very evident and clear that they are no inferior to any constitutional bench when it comes to the resources. Subhanagar.
Yeah, thank you, Anna. You could bring out a good gist of the entire process of a green movement and struggles and evolution of the legal institutions within the framework of green movement. Yes, you see, one thing people have to understand, the entire country and the world, is the movement, green movements, but always for the cause of the public, for the cause of the environment, for the cause of sustainability. It was never again, people will, seldom you find a case on an individual basis in the NGT. Whether it is Bhopal gas tragedy or Patancheru or encroachment of the lakes. So it is time for the people to think that the collectiveness of the individuals, right from the family framework to habitation to regional to the national level to the world, how do we address the threatening challenges towards environment and survival of the life forms, because NGT also takes care of other life forms issues including the human beings. So we need to look into these aspects of it, start understanding. Unfortunately, our education system, it has become something like, a typical robot mechanism without understanding the essence of the subject that is placed before the student or even before the faculty. We need to look into it. NGT was created, I feel strongly that justice delayed is justice denied. You keep, I know people, I met them personally in 90s in that 14 villages of Patancheru. Some of them died because of skin cancer and other issues in mid 90s only. It's an unfortunate thing. The justice could not be delivered to those people. And now the situation is we are talking of the younger generation, which we are seeing them around us. I am more worried about the generations which yet to come into the existence. Today, the baby in the womb is threatened by the pollution. So this is so horrible conditions that the present generation all over the world is living. There was a myth that a baby in the womb will not be affected by fluorosis. And it was proven wrong in somewhere in 1996 when the newly born babies were found mutilated hands and legs. There is no absolutely a continual medical research in this, and there is no convergence between the legal and medical. We often hear only in the movies that if something happens, some accident, oh, this is a medical legal case. And just an accident is a medical legal medical case. The entire world is suffering from these cases. We need to look into it. We need to understand. Yes, Professor Purushotham Reddy said it's a good news that Supreme Court issued this. And simultaneously, he said, this is not a new information what Supreme Court is giving. These powers are already existing. The whole problem with Indians, like Hanumanji, every time you have to make them to realize their powers. Time and again, "Arey, you are so good, you have the power to do it, you had. I do not know. So anyway, this is a very good news that, and one thing, recent case I was tracking, Aminpur Lake encroachments. When people were calling me and asking me, a demolition judgment came, will they implement it? And some said, when they did not implement for Durgam Cheru encroachers, forget about it. But at least this, declaration, at least will give some a good hope to the people who are fighting against the injustice in this world. Otherwise, the people who are committed for the well-being of the society, for the public cause, they may be branded as environmentalist and anybody, but they were always looked as the some kind of an insane people in the society. Because the mafia knows that it will never be implemented. It is time for us to bring groom, nurture a pressure lobby for implementation of all the judgments released since the inception of the NGT. Otherwise, last night I was studying one lake basin, and one of the leading planners and a remote sensing man, around 11:30 he called me, said, "Sir, it is scary. This basin, the entire people, who are living there, they have a life threat under such and such rainfall pattern." Are we looking into these things? No. And on the other day, we proudly announced that Telangana, our state, is the lifeline for the entire world. Yes, I really admire the IDPL's contribution of the scientists in the pharma industry. But at the same time, who is getting the benefit and who is losing it? The local people, the local resources. Everybody talks and everybody is happy that, A lot of compensation came from through Supreme Court judgments to the victims of Patancheru pollution. But not even one inch of the land, contaminated land, is retrieved back to their original productive status. Not similar is the situation with the water and also with the air. Funny terminologies come, brownfield restorations and all. Consultants, you know, it's a mushroom growth of consultants who hang around the Delhi and the secretariats at each state. But it's a shame on the part of this country that we could not restore back the contaminated site of the Bhopal factory. What is that we are talking about? Lifeline, Jivanadi, what all these things. We have to make many more things, and the state and people have to gear up, tighten their belts, approach, knock the doors of the NGT for immediate implementation, and also, you know, take a bold step and file cases. And the state governments, it's a red carpet welcome. Anybody can come and anywhere they can set up the industry. How come? Today, the state, the dryland, landlocked area has contamination in every district, I challenge. Every district. Out of this 360,000 square kilometers, how many water basins are contaminated? Do we have a status report of this? The primary river of the state, Musi, right from its origin to its confluence before joining the Krishna River, is highly contaminated. One of the dirtiest rivers in the country, world maybe. We are not addressing it. Why people are sleeping? Sir, you may be pulling money, saving money, and making money for your generation which you are seeing now, but nothing will be left for the next generation. Please think of it. Strengthen the Supreme Court order. Come forward. Yes, I always say convergence for sustainability. Let all, the concerned citizens, we need not be, I do not know how you brand them, activists, this and that. We are all educationists. We are trying to sensitize the people, educate the people. So it's time for us to give a good visual publicity to this particular Supreme Court order and give a second ray of hope to the people who are disappointed because the judgments were not implemented. Okay? Let us break the slogan that justice delayed is justice denied. We want immediate implementation of it. Okay? Thank you so much for giving me this opportunity. We need to
Wonderful.
move forward with a real good spirit of Telangana is the lifeline. Let us save the lives of Telangana people. Let us save the resources of Telangana in situ. When our lakes, our rivers, our groundwater, our air is contaminated,
Yeah.
what is that we are going to contribute to this world? Showcase it.
Right.
You cannot eat the money, my dear.
Right.
People who are in the governance, you need a good food, good air, good water. Let us not, deprive 80% of the population which is struggling to get these resources, and they are struggling to get the access. They are struggling to, you know, get into the affordability of these resources. The resources are now not accessible, not affordable. We cannot continue. Let us
Right.
support the Supreme Court case. Let us all come together and
Right.
sensitize the citizens across the country, across the Telangana. Let
Right.
us start a new beginning for this movement. Thank you, sir.
Wonderful, sir. Wonderful. So this is what the show is all about. The Supreme Court has held that the National Green Tribunal has powers to execute its orders as decrees of civil code under Section 25 of the NGT Act, because it was only harping on Section 26 by stating they should compensate or else awarding compensation. But a bench comprising Chief Justice D.Y. Chandrachud, Justice P.S. Narasimha, and Justice J.B. Pardiwala held that the NGT was entrusted with the power to ensure that its orders are complied with, because it was dealing with an appellant who had approached National Green Tribunal seeking remedial action to prevent untreated sewage and effluent being discharged in the storm water drains in Ghaziabad. So NGT noted that the issue had already been dealt with by it an earlier order. So aggrieved at this, the appellant had approached Supreme Court. So the gist of the Supreme Court has been explained by my Guru and Guru Tulyulu. I'll put it for you so that the Green Tribunal also will understand that there is a section called 25, not just section 26. You issue orders for compensation. Section 25, wherein it has powers to execute its own orders. So that aspect I wanted to just highlight here, so that the NGT and also those, because even there is a classical example in Mahbub Nagar close to Krishna River. Even till today, both Modi and Amit Shah, who wanted to contest in Mahbub Nagar Palamuru Lok Sabha seat, through this channel we have demanded, first you clear the allotments on Krishna River as rightfully accrued to Telangana state. They have not done. Inquiry into corruption into Palamuru Rangareddy lift irrigation, not done. Nalgonda left, Srisallam left bank canal, Madhareddy canal, wherein Jayaprakash Associates motors are struck. 3,000 to 5,000 crores. If they invest, the motors can be out. 130 TMC to 100 TMC water with gravity would come back. Nothing they are doing. And at least from Jurala, we can resourcefully utilize our share. They are not honoring that, nor they want to speak anything on Kaleshwaram, because these are all resources belonging to every citizen, whether it is water, air, or land, and everything. So in that context, for every citizen now, has been echoed by our Guru and Gurutuluru right from the beginning. If you don't know how to protect your own resources, you will be enslaved for once for all by these corporates, because they are dealing with not just natural resources. In doing so, they are limiting your ability, rightful ability to utilize your own resources. In doing so, they are enslaving you. They are making you to become a parasite without understanding that you are the owner of your own resources. So for them, the Supreme Court held, even for the Green Tribunal, whether it is Chennai, Delhi, or elsewhere, I hope you will understand the gist of the Supreme Court order and start using this section 25. The observation of the tribunal that there was no case for executing the earlier order under section 25 is misconceived. All those respectful judges of NGT, with due submission to you, kindly come to the rescue of the citizens, because you and your family are also part of the same society. If the resources are looted, what is that you are going to give to your next generations? It's a humble appeal to you all. The observation of the tribunal that there was no case for executing the earlier order under section 25 is misconceived. The tribunal is entrusted with the wholesome power to ensure that its orders are complied with. The absence of sewerage facilities is an important aspect which would merit the exercise of powers by the tribunal under section 25, the invocation of the power to levy a penalty under section 26 will not necessarily subserve the purpose. If there is no sewerage line, my dear justices, just by awarding compensation, you think that problem can be solved or resolved? This is the very fundamental or essence of this order. So, in saying so, the same will be there for every other issue. So, I only hope NJT in Palamur, in Mahbub Nagar, the way the ethanol movement is going on, without awarding the rightful share on the Krishna River, industries are being allowed to establish nearby Krishna basin like ethanol. Big agitation is going on. Our ministers, right from our agriculture minister, who is also there in the Vanaparthi constituency, Mr. Srinivas Gaud from Mahbub Nagar, scores of MLAs, what they are doing, we don't know. Popular movement, ethanol against ethanol movement has happened from right from his own belt from Kotakota to Atmakur, wherein people are saying, our water, you are not even bothered to state our share of water. At the same time, you are awarding that water to those industries, ethanol like, which are going to pollute from ground to air. And the case is lying in NGT still. And they are able to happily establish these industries, saying in the name of development, and they will get commissions and omissions, politicians and political parties to contest and entice people. So at least I'm giving you a present example of my own Palamuru district, which has been bifurcated clandestinely. I hope NGT will immediately order, not only order, it will execute or implement its own order as per the Supreme Court latest direction, which is reminding National Green Tribunal that you have inherent constitutional powers, not just to order for compensation, but to implement your own order or execute it. So, last word from Gurutulil Subbarao.
No, nothing else. Uh, uh, it is a great opportunity for every like-minded people. Uh, Also to the NGT legal personnel that to once again repose trust, confidence, and faith in the legal system, which is losing in this country. So we need to think seriously on, you know, building a faith and confidence in the legal system that the judiciary will deliver the justice at a right time. Thank you so much.
Wonderful. Do support DRTSPR channels, Citizen DRTSPR channel, and Environment People DRTSPR channels. Subscribe, share, and support. They are all in larger public interest. Thank you very much, sir. For
Thank
all the Indians, we say Sukhanidra Shubharatri for the world over. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. And I only hope National Green Tribunal will live up to its expectations to protect and preserve or save the natural resources for not just the present, for the future generations too. Namaste, sir.
Thank you.